In 1917, 3 children claimed the Virgin Mary appeared to them in the hills of Portugal. Months later, tens of thousands gathered, and what they saw would soon be called a miracle. But behind the visions came prophecies, warnings, and secrets the Vatican kept hidden for decades. This is the mystery of the 3 Secrets of Fatima. In 1917, Portugal, in a small village named Fatima, 3 children claimed to have seen the Virgin Mary. Their names were Lucia dos Santos, just 10 years old, and her younger cousins, Jacinta and Francisco Marto, ages 7 and 9. They were poor, uneducated shepherds. They spent their days tending sheep in the hills, surrounded by olive trees, stone paths, and silence. They lived simple lives in a deeply Catholic country, untouched by the war that raged across Europe. On May 13th of that year, the 3 children were tending sheep in a quiet valley just outside their village, a place called Cova da Iria. It was a normal afternoon until they saw a flash of light. At first, they thought it was lightning, even though the sky was clear. Then, just above a small oak tree, they saw her. A lady appeared. She wore a white robe, held a rosary, and radiated a light the children said couldn't be looked at, but didn't hurt their eyes. She told them not to be afraid, that she came from heaven, and that she would return on the 13th of each month for 6 months. She asked them to pray the rosary every day, for peace and for an end to the war. After the vision, the children agreed to keep it a secret. But Jacinta couldn't help herself. She told her parents, and soon the whole village knew. Lucia's mother was furious. She accused her daughter of lying, even beat her, hoping she'd confess. But Lucia wouldn't back down. The children insisted it was real, that the lady told them to come back on the 13th of every month. So they did. And when they returned on June 13th, they weren't alone. Around 50 people followed them into the field. None of them could see what the children saw, but some swore the air turned cold, and the sun dimmed and shimmered in the sky. By July, the story had spread across Portugal. Thousands now flocked to the fields near Fatima, some praying, others mocking. But the government had had enough. On August 13th, just hours before the next apparition, the children were abducted. A local official, Artur Santos, dragged them to the town of Urem. He locked them in a jail cell, interrogated them, demanded they confess it was all a lie, and when they refused, he threatened to boil them alive in oil. One by one, he separated them, telling each that the others had already been killed, but not one of them gave in. They were just children, but they wouldn't break. 6 days after their release, the children saw her again, not at the usual spot, but in a quiet field near their home. She told them God was not pleased. Too many doubted. She urged them again, pray every day, offer sacrifices, and trust. Then she made a promise. In October, I will perform a miracle, so that all may believe. The word spread fast, and the crowd for the next apparition would be the biggest yet. On September 13th, the children returned to Cova da Iria, but they weren't alone. This time, over 20,000 people stood waiting. Farmers, priests, soldiers, skeptics, and reporters, all staring toward a single oak tree in an empty field. As the children knelt and began to pray, the crowd fell silent. Then, strange things began to happen. A glowing mist formed above the tree. White petals, like snowflakes, fell from the sky, but vanished before they touched the ground. And the sun? It dimmed, just enough to stare at, like it was veiled. The Virgin spoke again. Continue to pray the rosary. In October, I will come again, and perform a miracle for all to see. October 13th, 1917. Over 70,000 people stood in the fields of Fatima. The rain poured. The ground was soaked. But they waited. Peasants, priests, soldiers, even skeptics and journalists. At noon, the children fell to their knees. Lucia cried out, "She's here!" The crowd saw nothing, but Lucia saw the lady, glowing, serene, above the oak tree. Mary spoke for the final time. "I am the Lady of the Rosary. Continue to pray. The war will end soon, and the soldiers will return to their homes." Then she rose into the sky and disappeared into the clouds. That's when Lucia shouted, "Look at the sun!" The rain stopped. The clouds parted, and suddenly the sun appeared. But it didn't shine like it normally did. It spun like a wheel of fire, casting colors, red, blue, violet, across the sky and the crowd. Then the sun zigzagged, lurched forward, and plunged toward the earth. Thousands screamed. People dropped to their knees in the mud. Some wept. Others confessed their sins aloud, convinced the world was ending. And then it stopped. The sun returned to its place. The sky was clear. The people stood in silence, dry, though they'd been soaked moments before. Even the muddy ground had hardened beneath their feet. And this time, it wasn't just the faithful who believed. Reporters from Lisbon, men who came to mock, witnessed it all. The next day, their newspapers printed words no one expected: the miracle of the sun. At least 3 major newspapers reported the events that happened in the field the following day, all of them containing eyewitness accounts. It's important to note that Portugal was under the First Republic, a secular, anti-clerical government at the time. So skeptics were shocked that a secular newspaper reported witnessing a miracle near Fatima. This understandably sent shockwaves through the nation. But the controversy didn't stop there. It was later revealed by Lucia that during the 3rd visit from the Virgin Mary, that she revealed things to them. It was said that she revealed 2 of the children would die young, and 1 would live a long life. But the secrets wouldn't get revealed by Lucia until years later. Just as Mary had said, Francisco was the first to go. He fell ill with the Spanish flu and quietly passed away on April the 4th, 1919, at the age of just 10. He spent his final days in prayer, often too weak to even speak. A year later, Jacinta became gravely ill. She suffered for months from pleurisy, chest infections, and open wounds. Her pain was intense, but she offered it all. For sinners, she said, just as Mary had asked. On February 20th, 1920, at only 9 years old, she died alone in a hospital in Lisbon. Her final words were a prayer. After Jacinta died in 1920, Lucia was left alone, the last living witness to what happened in Fatima. Crowds followed her. Pilgrims showed up at her door. Journalists begged for interviews. Everyone wanted answers. But Lucia had been told to wait. So in 1921, at just 14 years old, she was quietly sent away to a convent school in northern Portugal. The church enrolled her under a false name to protect her from the growing frenzy. The girl who had seen the Virgin Mary vanished from public view, hidden away under a false name. Lucia began a new life, far from the crowds of Fatima, far from the eyes of the world. She joined the Sisters of St. Dorothy, a quiet order focused on teaching, prayer, and service. In 1925, she entered as a novice, and by 1928, she had taken her first vows. Lucia was now a humble teacher in a convent school. She taught young girls to read and write, but told them nothing of her past. Her mission, for now, was obedience and silence. The secrets she carried, still locked in her heart. Years passed. Lucia taught in silence, never mentioning the visions, never speaking of the secrets. But in 1935, the church came back. They asked her to write about Jacinta, the little girl who had suffered so much and died so young. In that account, Lucia finally hinted at something deeper, a secret the Virgin had given them. She didn't explain it. She wasn't ready, but the silence had cracked. In 1941, under obedience to her bishop, Lucia wrote a full account of what happened in Fatima. And for the first time, the world learned about the three secrets. The first was a vision of hell, a place of fire, screaming souls and demons. The second was a warning that if the world didn't repent, a greater war would follow, and that Russia would spread chaos across the earth. But when it came to the third secret, Lucia stayed quiet. She said it was not the right time. In 1944, after falling gravely ill, her bishop ordered her to write it down. She obeyed. She sealed it in an envelope, and it was sent to the Vatican in 1957. No one else would see it, not for decades. In 1957, Lucia's sealed envelope containing the Third Secret of Fatima was delivered to the Vatican, locked away in the secret archives. Only the highest-ranking church officials were allowed to read it. In 1959, Pope John XXIII opened it. He read it, then chose not to reveal it. He said it was not for our time. And with that, the silence began. The Vatican had once said the secret would be made public by 1960. But when the year came, nothing. No explanation, no release, just silence. And the world began to ask, what was in that envelope? From the 1960s to the 1990s, public pressure exploded. Books were written, petitions launched. Even some priests and bishops demanded the truth. Was it about the end of the world? A warning of war, nuclear destruction, or even corruption inside the church? As the years passed, the mystery only grew darker. Popes Paul VI, John Paul I, and John Paul II all read the secret. None of them revealed it. But John Paul II, he believed the secret had something to do with him. On May 13, 1981, the anniversary of the first Fatima apparition, Pope John Paul II was shot in St. Peter's Square. He survived. He later said, "One hand pulled the trigger, another guided the bullet." He credited Our Lady of Fatima with saving his life. In 2000, after more than 40 years, the Vatican finally released the Third Secret. It described a vision, a bishop in white walking through a city in ruins, praying for the dead, until he is killed by soldiers, along with priests, nuns, and lay people. The Vatican said it symbolized the suffering of the Church and the 1981 assassination attempt. But not everyone believed that was the full story. Many noticed something strange. The text had no words from Mary, even though Lucia had said she spoke during the vision. Some believe the real Third Secret is still hidden. Others say it warned of a crisis from within the Church itself, something too dangerous to reveal. Lucia died in 2005, at age 97, the last living witness to what happened in Fatima. She never denied the Vatican's version, but she never gave another. And to this day, people still ask, was the full truth ever told? Or is part of the message still sealed away?